to be taking you down to the next wing, which is X-ray, and he'll be taking care of you.
Dr. Campier, room 5219.
John, I'm not real happy where his pro time is. Why don't you give his doctor a call and change that code in order, okay?
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, I got to go down and see Mr. Wilder.
Oh, okay.
Hi, how are you?
Dr. Garrahy, OR staff. Dr. Garrahy, OR staff.
Code red, 843. Code red, 843.
Code red.
843. We have a code red on center 8. Center 8.
Don't worry, you'll be fine.
But I can't walk. What's the smoke?
I'm going to help you. You don't need to be concerned. Don't worry, Helene. You're going to be okay.
Code red, center 8.
Don't worry, Renee. I'm taking you to an area of safety.
We're going to get you out.
Sandy, let me help you out.
Thank you. Just going right back. Okay, Trent. Now we're going to pull you out of the room. We'll bring you down to a safe spot. You'll be okay.
Don't worry, Craig. I'll have you out of this smoke in a minute.
Don't worry, Mr. Wilder. It's going to be okay.
Everything will be okay. Just hang in
Out of
there.
the way. The fire department's on the way.
Hi, security. What type of alarm do we have?
We have a pull station on Center 8 with a phone call of an active fire.
Pull station, Center 8, phone call, active fire.
It's okay, Mr. Sullivan. We're going to get you out of here. The fire department's on its way.
Hey! Got a fire in the room! Fire in the room! Fire in the room!
Major fires in healthcare facilities are rare, but when they occur, they may have greater potential for loss of life than fires in other types of facilities.
Ma'am, I'm going to have you take your patient down to the Bryant unit.
The reasons for this are clear. Most patients simply can't evacuate on their own because of their medical condition or age. Others may be confused by the alarm sound or frightened by the smell of smoke, or they may not know the best way out.
Being in a hospital, it's extremely important that all members of the staff are very, very comfortable with the evacuation policy of the hospital, but also the floor as well.
We are here to protect and save people's lives. If we don't practice good fire safety habits, we can risk putting our patients into danger.
To protect patients, staff members need to understand fire response procedures, including how to sound the alarm and get help, how to prevent fire and smoke from spreading, and how to conduct an evacuation.
Evacuation plans are critical. All staff members need to know the evacuation plans and need to know what to do and how to perform during an emergency, and this helps them provide maximum patient safety.
Healthcare facilities have written fire procedures describing what needs to be done by the staff in every part of the facility. Understanding the plan for your facility and practicing evacuation procedures are essential steps to preventing loss of life during a fire. But conditions can change. Staff members still must use their own best judgment, always remembering that the #1 priority is patient safety.
The first thing is to make sure the patient's okay, that their oxygen supply is okay, that their drips are running okay, because you really want to be sure that you're not abandoning the patient, and you want to be sure that help is identified and is coming as rapidly as possible.
It's very important that staff knows what to do. They don't have to run to a manual. They know right off the bat this is what they can do, and they can act quickly.
Remember, it's your responsibility. No matter what your job is, you are responsible for knowing and carrying out your part of the plan.
What's the matter? Is there a fire? Well, you know what? We're not sure yet.
Nurses, doctors, orderlies, maintenance staff, kitchen workers, volunteers. Everyone needs to know how the plan works and what their role is.
And I want the rehearsal to begin now.
Code red!
For people to act effectively under the stress of a fire emergency, response procedures need to be practiced regularly. Only through regular drills can each staff member learn what his or her role is and how to perform it.
Drills are very important. We try to make them as close as possible to the real fire situation. It helps the staff to know what to expect.
Drills tell you what the problem is, what you're supposed to do about it, where you're supposed to go, and when you're supposed to go. It's just very important to practice, practice, practice.
The end result of all the training and procedures is that there's a benefit to everybody who's in the hospital, that in the case of emergency, we will get staff, families, visitors, everybody in the hospital out in a very quick and very safe way.
If a fire breaks out in a patient care area, there are specific steps to take.
Code red, 843. Code red, 843.
Call out the facility's code word to alert other staff members. Activate the fire alarm. Evacuate anyone in immediate danger. Attempt to control or extinguish the fire if it can be done safely. Close doors to contain the smoke and fire. Once a fire has been contained to the room of origin behind a closed door, never reopen the door or attempt to re-enter the room to extinguish the fire. Then, evacuate the smoke compartment as directed by the person in charge. Healthcare facilities are divided into smoke compartments. Between the compartments are smoke barrier doors. When the doors are closed, they prevent smoke from moving into another compartment. If all doors are closed, the fire will be confined to a limited area, and patients will be safe in adjoining smoke compartments. Smoke barriers are crucial because smoke is so dangerous. Most people think the danger in a fire comes from flames, but it's the smoke, which can travel quickly to areas far from the fire, that kills most people.
With the fire comes toxic gas and smoke. Smoke is probably the most dangerous part of a fire.
It acts quickly, it will deprive you of oxygen, and it can kill you within minutes.
That's why response plans emphasize moving people out of smoky areas and preventing smoke from spreading.
We close doors during emergency procedures because we need to make sure that the fire and smoke does not penetrate through that door, and so when the patient's behind the door, they're safe.
As part of knowing your fire response plan, it's important to learn which doors in your work area are smoke barrier doors.
Smoke compartment doors are designed to segregate an area of the facility. That way, if a fire starts at a particular wing in the hospital, the doors will close and trap the smoke in that wing, and it will not spread to the other areas of the facility.
Evacuating patients from one smoke compartment to another is called horizontal evacuation.
There's no question that the ability to be able to move patients horizontally within the system has a major impact on making healthcare facilities much safer today than they were many years ago.
There is no foolproof rule for determining whether or not to evacuate patients, but consider these basic guidelines. If the fire is small and can be quickly contained and extinguished, then evacuation of the smoke compartment may not be necessary. If a fire has not been extinguished but has been contained by closing a door, evacuation of the smoke compartment should be implemented.
Fire extinguishers should only be used on small, controllable fires. If the fire is not controllable, close the door and get away from it.
In general, evacuate patients who are closest to the fire first.
You can go right to the brain.
Move them horizontally into another smoke compartment. Staff members in the adjacent smoke compartment should be ready to assist evacuated patients. Always use the fastest, most convenient means to evacuate the patient. Wheelchairs, gurneys, or stretchers are one alternative, but usually there aren't enough of them to evacuate everyone, and it will take valuable time to get more. Often, the fastest and best method is to use carrying or dragging techniques. This takes teamwork and practice. The number of patients that have to be evacuated and the number of staff available at the time may influence whether one person or two move each patient. If there are 2 staff members available, first remove the blankets or sheets covering the patient. Disconnect medical equipment that can't be moved with the patient. Untuck the corners and roll the sheet toward the patient. Grasping the sheet on each side of the patient, the staff member at the head faces the foot of the bed, while the other person lowers the patient's feet to the floor. Next, slide the patient's upper body off the bed, onto your legs, then gently down to the floor. The patient now can be moved out of the room. If only one staff member is available, place a sheet or blanket on the floor. Remove coverings and disconnect equipment. Slide the patient off the bed onto your legs and then gently to the floor. Then, drag the patient out of the room to a safe area. When evacuating patients, remember that different situations require different solutions.
What we practiced was getting multiple babies out in a very quick situation by using a fire vest or by bundling, putting more than one baby in one crib at a time, and taking one crib with multiple babies out to get them out, as many out as possible and in the quickest way.
So far, all forms of evacuation we've seen have been horizontal, beyond smoke barriers to another part of the same floor. But if fire conditions obstruct horizontal movement, your second option is vertical evacuation, down a stairwell to a lower floor or outside the building. Never use the elevator unless directed to do so by firefighters.
Elevator shafts are vertical shafts and will act as a chimney for smoke, and actually pushes the smoke and helps it travel throughout the facility.
There are several ways to move patients during vertical evacuation. For example, by dragging, using a straight-back chair, or by other carrying techniques, such as the two-person extremities carry. If you're alone and can't lift the patient, drag him on a blanket head first to the stairway. Then, standing below the patient, clasp your hands over his chest and slowly back down the stairs. Keep close contact with the patient and make sure one leg is positioned against the patient's back.
Vertical evacuation is going to be used as a last resort when the conditions in the adjacent smoke compartments deteriorate.
In any evacuation, the staff must make sure no patient is left behind. All rooms, including bathrooms and storage areas, have to be checked. Certain areas in healthcare facilities will have specialized plans for interrupting medical procedures or maintaining a patient on life support equipment. For example, operating rooms, intensive care units, and MRI and nuclear medicine areas. Each will have its own special considerations. If you work in an area where exceptions apply, it's especially important to learn these procedures.
If the fire is in the room and there's oxygen being used within the room, you need to turn the oxygen off that's on the patient and remove the patient from the room. If there's a large fire on that wing, then you need to shut off the zone oxygen valve.
The decision to shut off oxygen zone valves should only be made by the person in charge of the evacuation, based on knowledge of each patient's condition. In all the examples so far, only part of the healthcare facility was evacuated, always to another area within the same building.
We're going to get you to safety in just a minute.
But sometimes, a total evacuation of the building is required. Your emergency preparedness plan should provide information on conducting a total building evacuation. Usually, this will be initiated by emergency response personnel on the scene.
Code red.
Remember the essential steps for healthcare facility fire response. First, the key to how the staff should react during a fire is the facility's written fire response plan. Become familiar with the evacuation plan and basic evacuation principles, and learn what your role will be when there's a fire. If you discover a fire, call out the code word, activate the fire alarm, evacuate anyone in immediate danger, extinguish the fire if possible, close doors to contain smoke, evacuate the smoke compartment. Check all rooms carefully to make sure no patients are left behind. In a fire emergency, there may be exceptions to any rule, so know the principles which usually apply. Then, use your own best judgment based on actual conditions during the evacuation. If you keep these key points in mind, you'll be prepared to safely evacuate patients if a fire occurs.